Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening in the comments. My daughter forgot to hang up the phone. I heard, "It's time for him to go to a nursing home. He's a burden." I didn't say anything, but in that moment something inside me broke. I had sold the house for $890,000. They came back from a business trip smiling, but there was a surprise waiting for them. The keys did not fit the door. They found a note on the doorstep, and after reading it, they started screaming. Then I realized they wouldn't just let it go. This was only the beginning. The phone rang just as I was scraping the last of the meatloaf from my plate. Ellen's meatloaf recipe. Mine never tasted quite right without her touch. I glanced at the caller ID and, despite myself, smiled. "Caitlin, Dad, how are you holding up?" Her voice carried that familiar warmth that always made my chest tighten with love and loneliness. I settled into Ellen's old recliner, the leather worn smooth from years of her evening reading. "Oh, you know me, sweetheart. Just finished dinner and was about to watch the news. I didn't mention it was leftovers from 3 days ago, or that I'd been staring at Ellen's photo on the mantel for the better part of an hour. Are you eating enough? You know you can always order groceries online now, right? I showed you the app." Her concern was automatic. "I'm eating plenty," I said. I added gently, "I had a little scare yesterday. Forgot to turn off the burner under my coffee pot. Good thing I smelled it burning from the living room." There was a pause. I could see her frown, the same little crease between her eyebrows she'd inherited from her mother. "Dad, maybe we should talk about getting someone to check on you more regularly." "Jeremy thinks I'm fine, Caitlin." "Really? How's your business trip going? You're in Phoenix, right?" "Yes, the conference ends tomorrow. Jeremy's been handling most of the client meetings while I sit through endless presentations about digital marketing trends." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Listen, Dad, I should probably get going. Jeremy and I have dinner plans with some potential investors." "Of course, sweetheart. I love you." "Love you too, Dad. Take care of yourself, okay?" I heard the click and some rustling. She must have dropped the phone in her purse, I thought, reaching to hang up. Then I heard voices, muffled at first, but clear enough through the microphone. "Jeremy, you see how he's deteriorating? He forgot to turn off the stove yesterday. What if he burns the house down?" It was Caitlin's voice now, no longer warm. My hand froze on the receiver. Ice spread through my chest. "It's time for a nursing home, Caitlin," Jeremy said, cold and matter-of-fact. "He's becoming a burden. He can't live alone anymore. The house is worth almost $1 million now." Caitlin's voice had shifted to pure calculation. "With Denver's market, we could probably get $900,000, maybe more." "Exactly." Jeremy sounded pleased. "We could sell it, put him somewhere decent, not too expensive, and finally buy that house in Boulder we've been looking at." "The one with the mountain view." My daughter laughed. She actually laughed. "God, Jeremy, you should have seen him tonight. So grateful just to hear from me. He has no idea we're planning this. The longer we wait, the more confused he'll get. We should strike while he still trusts us completely." The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered onto the hardwood Ellen and I had installed together 23 years ago. Every board laid by my own hands. Every nail driven with dreams of our family's future. I sat in the sudden silence of my empty house, staring at Ellen's photograph. Her eyes seemed to bore into mine with something I couldn't read. Disappointment, a warning, or maybe just the terrible knowing of someone who's already left this world. The grandfather clock in the hallway, Ellen's anniversary gift to me 15 years ago, ticked steadily. Outside, the first spring crickets began their evening song in the garden Ellen had planted and I still tended. Something cold and hard settled in my chest, replacing the warmth I'd felt hearing my daughter's voice. My hands, weathered from decades of construction work, slowly curled into fists. They thought I was a burden. They thought I was confused, helpless, ready to be managed and discarded. They were already spending my money. They were already planning their new life on the other side of my grave. But I wasn't dead yet. I wasn't nearly as confused as they believed. I don't know how long I sat there in the dark, Ellen's face watching me from the silver frame on the end table. The house felt different, as if the walls themselves had heard my daughter's betrayal and were holding their breath. My legs felt unsteady when I finally stood and turned on the lamp. Warm light fell across the living room we'd furnished piece by piece, each item chosen with care and purchased with sacrifice. The burgundy sofa where Caitlin used to curl up and do homework. The coffee table I'd built in the garage, sanded smooth while she played at my feet. I walked to the kitchen and opened the drawer where I kept old receipts and papers. My fingers found the folder I was looking for without conscious thought. 20 years of financial records Ellen insisted we keep. You never know when you might need them, she always said. University of Colorado tuition receipts, $48,000 over 4 years. I remembered those double shifts, coming home with concrete dust in my hair and plaster under my nails. Ellen would have coffee waiting and would massage my shoulders while I paid bills at this very kitchen table. "Roy, you're working yourself to death," she'd said one night, watching me calculate how to afford Caitlin's spring semester. "She deserves better than we had, Ellen." Ellen had kissed the top of my head. "Just don't give her so much that she forgets to be grateful." I should have listened. God, I should have listened. Wedding receipts were in the folder too. $32,000 for one day. I told Caitlin we could afford $5,000, maybe $8,000 if we stretched. She cried about wanting her dream wedding. I'd worked weekends for 6 months installing hardwood floors for a contractor who paid me under the table. "Daddy, you're the best father in the world," she'd whispered during our dance, her head on my shoulder. I loved that moment. She had forgotten who co-signed her first car loan when her credit wasn't good enough. She had forgotten who made the calls to get her that marketing job when she was unemployed for 8 months after graduation. I found bank statements from 2 years ago, after Jeremy lost his financial advisor position for reasons they never fully explained. They'd moved in temporarily, just until Jeremy found something new. I never charged them rent. I paid the higher utility bills. I bought groceries for 3 adults instead of one lonely widower. Jeremy would pat my shoulder and call me the most generous man in Colorado. Caitlin would hug me and say, "Dad, we'll pay you back when we get on our feet." They'd been on their feet for over a year, both with good jobs, both making more than I ever had, yet they'd never mentioned moving out, never mentioned paying me back. The anniversary dinner I paid for last month, $200 at that fancy steakhouse downtown because Jeremy said they deserved to celebrate. The car repair bill I covered when Jeremy's BMW needed a new transmission, $3,000 that emptied my emergency fund. "Roy's like a father to me," Jeremy told his friends at their barbecue, arm around my shoulders. I was proud to be the generous father-in-law, the man who took care of family no matter what it cost. I climbed the stairs to Ellen's and my bedroom. It remained unchanged after 2 years. Her jewelry box sat on the dresser. Her reading glasses lay folded beside the lamp. I opened the bottom drawer where we kept important papers and pulled out our original house deed. Roy and Ellen Hayes, purchased 1999. No liens, no cosigners, no complications. My name only now that Ellen was gone. Standing there in the room where Ellen had spent her last days, surrounded by everything we'd built, something shifted inside me. The hurt was sharp like broken glass, but underneath it something harder formed. They wanted to put me away and sell my life's work. They thought I was too old, too confused, too grateful for their attention to fight back. I looked at Ellen's photo and remembered her last words. "Promise me you won't let them take advantage of you." "You're too good, Roy, too generous. Promise me you'll take care of yourself." I had promised. I had not kept that promise. In my home office, I found the business card Ellen had insisted we keep. Todd Fisher, real estate attorney. She'd made me meet him after her cancer diagnosis to make sure our affairs were in order. It was time for another consultation. The next morning, I walked through the house like a stranger, but instead of seeing home, I saw square footage, market value, liquid assets. In the kitchen, I ran my hand along the granite countertop I'd installed myself, speckled gray with veins of gold that caught the morning light. Ellen had made coffee on this counter every morning for 16 years until cancer took her, strength away. I remembered the Christmas morning when 3-year-old Caitlin took her first wobbly steps from the refrigerator to Ellen's outstretched arms. We both cried with joy. Ellen scooped our daughter up while I scrambled for the camera. "Our baby's walking in our house," Ellen had whispered, tears streaming. "In the house we built for her." The living room held 25 years of Christmas mornings. I could still see 7-year-old Caitlin's face lighting up at the sight of the dollhouse I built in the garage for 3 months, working in secret after she'd gone to bed. Ellen had sewn tiny curtains. She loved that it matched the real house. I had learned new cuts, crawled around frames with my back aching so our daughter would have something special. I walked to Caitlin's old room, still painted the soft yellow she'd chosen for her 16th birthday, still decorated with photos of friends and college memories. The room where I'd rocked her through colicky nights as a baby. The room where Ellen and I helped with algebra at the small white desk I'd built. The master bedroom was the hardest. Ellen's side of the bed still had her water glass on the nightstand. Her bookmark marked page 247 of a novel she'd never finish. I built those walk-in closets with my own hands, custom designed for Ellen's height. Her clothes still smelled faintly of her perfume. This was the room where we'd planned our future. This was the room where Ellen had died, holding my hand while machines beeped around us. "Promise me you won't let them take advantage of you," she'd said near the end. "You're too good, Roy," I had promised. I had failed. Back in my office, I held Todd Fisher's business card. The edges were worn. The number was still clear. Caitlin and Jeremy thought they were dealing with a confused old man. They thought I would hand over my life's work without a fight. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I dialed Todd's number and listened to it ring. My hands were steady as stone. Outside, the spring morning was bright and clear. The kind of day Ellen used to love. The kind of day for new beginnings. I walked into the law office 15 minutes early, wearing the charcoal suit Ellen had picked for me to wear to her funeral. The reception desk greeted me with polite efficiency. Todd Fisher was younger than I remembered, maybe 55, with graying temples and the patient demeanor of a man who'd heard every family horror story twice. His office was lined with law books and family photos. He poured coffee from a small machine in the corner. The rich smell filled the space between legal documents and filing cabinets. "Mr. Hayes, good to see you again," he said. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you," I replied. I accepted the coffee, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "I need to discuss something delicate. It's about my daughter and son-in-law." Todd settled behind his desk, pen ready. "I'm listening." I told him everything. The phone call, the overheard conversation, their plans to sell my house and put me in a nursing home. Todd's expression didn't change, but I caught him shaking his head slightly when I described their eagerness to spend my money on their Boulder dream home. "Unfortunately, Mr. Hayes," Todd said, setting down his pen and leaning back in his chair, "this scenario is more common than you'd think. Adult children often assume they know what's best for their aging parents, especially when valuable assets are involved. But they can't actually do anything, can they?" I asked. "I mean, legally." Todd nodded thoughtfully. "Let's start with the basics. The house is titled in your name only, since your wife's passing, correct?" "That's right," I said. "Ellen and I owned it jointly, but when she died, it transferred to me automatically." "Then legally speaking," Todd continued, "your daughter and son-in-law have absolutely no claim to your property. They can't sell it. They can't force you into a care facility. They can't make any decisions about your assets without your explicit consent." He pulled a legal pad from his drawer and began making notes. "The house belongs to you, period." Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by something sharper. "So if I wanted to sell it myself?" "You could put it on the market tomorrow if you chose to," Todd replied. "It's your property, your decision." He looked up from his notes. "May I ask why you're considering that option?" I thought about Caitlin's laugh when she called me a burden, Jeremy's cold calculation of my worth, 25 years of sacrifice reduced to a real estate transaction. "They think I'm helpless, confused," I said quietly. "They think they can manage me like a piece of property. Maybe it's time I showed them exactly how sharp my mind really is." Todd studied me for a moment, his expression shifting from pity to respect. "Denver's housing market is incredibly strong right now," he said. "Especially in your neighborhood. Properties are selling within days, often for cash offers above asking price. If you were serious about selling quickly, before your daughter and son-in-law return from their trip, we could have a sale completed within a week. Maybe less. A week?" I asked. He nodded. "With the right buyer, it's possible. But Mr. Hayes, this is a major decision. Once you sell, there's no going back." I met his eyes. "I built that house with my own hands, Mr. Fisher. Every board, every nail, every custom detail. I know exactly what I'm doing." We spent the next hour going over the practicalities, market value estimates, cash buyer networks, legal paperwork. Todd said he could have everything ready within 24 hours if I wanted to proceed. "The consultation fee is $200, he said, as I stood to leave. "If you move forward, it'll go toward my legal fees for the sale." I paid in cash. Walking out into the spring sunshine, I felt more clear-headed than I had in months. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Caitlin's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time since her betrayal, I smiled. Let her wonder. Let her and Jeremy make their little plans about my future, my house, my life. They were in for the surprise of their lives. The phone rang again as I climbed into my truck. Todd Fisher's business card secure in my wallet, and a plan forming in my mind that would teach my ungrateful daughter exactly who she was dealing with. I'd built my life from nothing once before. I could tear it down and rebuild it on my own terms. By the time I reached my driveway, confidence had replaced the tremor in my hands. Todd's words echoed in my head. "It's your property, your decision." I was unlocking my front door when the phone rang again. Through the window, I could see it buzzing against the kitchen counter. Caitlin's name glowed on the screen. For a moment, I let it ring. Let her stew. Let her wonder why her grateful old father wasn't rushing to answer. On the sixth ring, I picked up. "Dad, there you are." Her voice sparkled with fake warmth. "I was starting to worry when you didn't answer earlier." "Sorry, sweetheart," I said, keeping my tone soft. "I was out running some errands. How's Phoenix treating you?" "Oh, you know how these conferences are," she laughed lightly. "But listen, I have the most wonderful news." I gripped the phone tighter. "Jeremy and I have been planning something very special for you," she said sweetly. "We want to treat you to a vacation. You deserve some rest after everything you've been through since Mom died." Her voice oozed sympathy. Fake. Practiced. "There's this beautiful place we found," she continued. "It's like a resort, but with medical staff on hand just in case you need anything." A resort. With medical staff. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "That sounds lovely, sweetheart," I said. "You really didn't need to go to such trouble for me." "Nonsense," she chirped. "Your family," Jeremy's voice cut in from the background. "We've already made all the arrangements." "When were you thinking?" I asked. "Well," Caitlin said, "we should be back by next Friday. We were hoping you could be ready by then. Just pack clothes and personal items, you know, the essentials. The essentials. Not the photo albums Ellen had arranged. Not the furniture I'd built with my hands. Just the essentials for an old man being shuffled away." "Actually, Caitlin," I said calmly, "I have a surprise for you too, when you get back." "Oh, Dad," she laughed. "What kind of surprise?" I looked out the bay window Ellen loved so much. The garden, the porch swing, the life we'd built. "It's something I've been working on since our last conversation," I said. "I think you'll be very surprised." "You're so sweet, Dad. We'll talk about it when we get home, okay? Get some rest, we'll handle everything." Sweet. She called me sweet while plotting to sell my life out from under me. "I will, sweetheart," I said. "Love you." "Love you too, Dad." When the line went dead, I set the phone down with steady hands. I walked to my office and opened my laptop. Real estate agents. Denver. The search results filled the screen like ammunition in a war I was finally ready to fight. I compared listings, reviews, and closing times. One name stood out: Brian Connor, 43 years old, known for lightning-fast sales. 6 days on average. His testimonials were glowing. Cash buyer in 48 hours. Smooth closing. Top dollar. This was the man I needed. I dialed the number. "Brian Connor, Connor Real Estate. How can I help you?" "Mr. Connor," I said. "My name is Roy Hayes. I'm interested in selling my house quickly." "How fast can these things actually happen?" "Well, Mr. Hayes, that depends. But with the right property, I've closed in as little as 10 days. What kind of timeline are you thinking?" 10 days? My heart pounded. "That fast?" "Absolutely," he said. "Denver's market is hot right now, especially for well-kept homes." "Can you tell me about your property?" 2-story, 3,400 square feet. Built in '99, Cherry Creek area. 3 beds, 2.5 baths. Maintained by me personally. His tone sharpened. "That sounds perfect. Original owner. Excellent condition. Great neighborhood. Would you be open to a property assessment? How soon could you come by?" "I can be there this afternoon." "Say 3 o'clock?" I glanced at the clock. Just past noon. 3 works. Here's the address. When I hung up, silence filled the room. In 3 hours, a stranger would walk through the home Ellen and I had built, appraising the memories we'd made together. I spent the next 2 hours cleaning. Every surface gleamed, every corner perfect. It felt less like tidying, and more like preparing for an execution. At exactly 3 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Brian Connor stood on my porch, portfolio in hand. Polished, professional, confident. He stepped inside, his eyes widening as he took in the craftsmanship. "Wow," he murmured. "Mr. Hayes, this is incredible." He ran a hand along the crown molding, the hardwood floors, the granite countertops Ellen had chosen. "You weren't kidding about maintaining this place," he said. "Installed every board myself," I told him. "Ellen wanted something that would last." He smiled. "It shows." He started snapping photos, jotting notes, and nodding with growing excitement. "Mr. Hayes," he said finally, "in my 15 years doing this, I rarely see homes this well kept. I think we can list at $890,000 and move it fast." $890,000. More than Caitlin and Jeremy ever imagined. I nodded slowly. "Let's do it." I sat down heavily in Ellen's reading chair, the number spinning in my head. $890,000. "That much?" I managed to ask. Brian smiled confidently. "Mr. Hayes, you're sitting on a gold mine. Properties like this don't come on the market often, especially not in this condition. I actually have an investment group looking for exactly this type of home." "What kind of investment group?" I asked. "They specialize in high-quality rental properties," he said. "Established neighborhoods, cash buyers, no financing contingencies, no repair negotiations. They can close in 10 business days." 10 business days. Caitlin and Jeremy would be back from Phoenix in 8, expecting to find their grateful, manageable father ready to be shipped off to their so-called resort. "What's the catch?" I asked quietly. "Why so fast?" "No catch," Brian said. "Cash means no loan delays, no appraisals that can kill the deal. They'll do their own inspections, but honestly, your house is in better shape than most new builds I see." I looked around the living room, the same room where Caitlin had taken her first steps, where Ellen and I had celebrated Christmas mornings, birthdays, and quiet Sundays reading the paper together. "When would I need to be out?" I asked. "Standard contract gives you 30 days after closing," Brian said, "but they're flexible if you need more time." I thought about Caitlin's fake sweetness on the phone, her calling me sweet while planning to steal my life. I thought about Jeremy's cold calculations, reducing me to a burden, a problem to be managed. "Let's do it," I said. Brian's professional mask slipped for a moment. Genuine excitement lit up his face. "Excellent choice, Mr. Hayes. Let me call them right now." I listened as he described my home like a hidden treasure. Cherry Creek area, original owner, immaculate condition, custom features throughout. When he hung up, he was smiling. "They want to move forward immediately. I can have the contracts ready by tomorrow morning." The sun poured through Ellen's bay window, casting gold light across the room. For the first time since that awful phone call, I felt something powerful return. Control. "How does 9 a.m. sound?" he asked. 9 a.m. sounds perfect, I replied. After Brian left, I stood alone in the house that would soon belong to someone else. The evening light painted everything golden, like a photograph of a life I was about to leave behind. But I didn't feel sadness. I felt anticipation. The next morning, Brian arrived with contracts, a notary, and coffee for everyone. I read every line carefully, the same way I used to check blueprints when I was an engineer. Sale price, $890,000. Cash purchase, closing date, 10 business days from signing. The notary guided me through each signature. "Minimal contingencies, Mr. Hayes," she said. "You can remain in the house for 30 days after closing if needed." "That's fine," I said. "Peace of mind and all that." I almost laughed at that phrase. Peace of mind. The only peace I'd have would be seeing Caitlin and Jeremy's faces when they realized what their burden had done. I signed my name with steady hands. Just like that, it was done. The first few days passed in a blur of paperwork and inspections. The title search, the appraisers, the investors team walking through the house, all professional, polite. One of them even said, "Your father-in-law really knew what he was doing. These floors, this electrical work, top quality." If only they knew. By day 6, I was a man on a mission. I researched apartments online, found a small but comfortable place in Highlands, a senior community with golf courses and a clubhouse, a new beginning. I also called storage facilities, making lists of what I'd take. Ellen's jewelry box, our photo albums, her favorite cookbook with notes in the margins, the essentials of a life built together. By day 9, I was calm, focused. I woke up knowing I was one step closer to freedom, and to teaching my daughter a lesson she'd never forget. That evening, Brian called. "Everything's on track for tomorrow's closing, Mr. Hayes. The wire transfer will be same day. You'll have access to the funds immediately." That night, I packed a single suitcase, not because I was leaving yet, but because I wanted to be ready. I looked at Ellen's photo and whispered, "I hope you understand what I'm doing." Friday morning came bright and clear. I dressed in my best Navy suit, not the funeral one, but the one Ellen bought me for Caitlin's graduation. The title company office was professional and efficient. The buyer's attorney double-checked everything. Brian guided me through each signature like a conductor leading an orchestra: deed transfer, settlement statement, acknowledgement of sale, and just like that, 1247 Maple Street no longer belonged to Roy Hayes. "Congratulations," Brian said. $890,000, less closing costs, has been wired to your account. I stared at the paper, the numbers swimming before my eyes. More money than I'd ever seen. More than Caitlin and Jeremy had ever dreamed their burden could access. We shook hands, and I walked out feeling lighter than I had in years. Driving home through familiar streets past the park where Ellen and I used to walk, I didn't feel regret. I felt liberation. I parked in the driveway of the house that was no longer mine. The keys felt heavy in my palm. Tomorrow, I'd hand them over and walk away for good. Caitlin and Jeremy would be home in 3 days, expecting their obedient father. Instead, they'd find an empty house and a lesson they'd never forget. That afternoon, I made my next call. "AOA emergency locksmith," came the voice. "I need all my door locks changed today. It's urgent." Eddie, the locksmith, arrived 2 hours later. "Security issue, sir?" he asked. "New ownership situation," I said. "Better safe than sorry." He nodded and got to work, removing the brass locks Ellen had chosen 15 years ago. When he finished, he handed me a new set. 3 silver keys that clicked with sharp precision. "That'll be $450 cash." I paid without hesitation. No paper trail, no proof. Then I started packing what really mattered. Ellen's jewelry box, our wedding photos, her half-finished novel, my certificates, and her favorite cookbook. Everything else stayed behind. I called Sunset Manor Apartments. "We have a 1-bedroom available for immediate occupancy," Mrs. Chen told me. "I'll take it," I said. That evening, I loaded my car with my life in boxes and drove away from Maple Street for what might be the last time. The sunset glowed in my rear-view mirror, warm, final, and free. At Sunset Manor, I unlocked the door to my new life. The apartment smelled of fresh paint and carpet cleaner. It wasn't home, but it was mine. I placed Ellen's photo on the nightstand, opened my laptop, and made one final call. "Colorado Community Bank, Private Banking Division," answered a smooth voice. "Mr. Morrison," I said. "This is Roy Hayes. I'd like to open an account for a substantial deposit, around $890,000. A pause. Then, "We'd be delighted to work with you, Mr. Hayes. How's Monday at 9? "Perfect," I said. That weekend, I unpacked carefully, placing Ellen's memories where they'd feel at peace. For the first time in years, I felt a calm, quiet satisfaction. I hadn't lost everything. I'd simply taken it back, on my own terms. And when Caitlin and Jeremy returned to Denver, they'd realized too late that their helpless old man had just outsmarted them all. The checkout clerk, a young man with kind eyes, asked if I was new to the area. "Just moved in," I told him. "Starting fresh." On Sunday morning, I discovered a coffee shop called Brews and Views, 3 blocks from my apartment. The barista, a young woman named Sarah with purple streaks in her hair, made the kind of strong coffee I preferred. "You're new around here," she observed, not prying, just friendly. "Retired engineer," I said. "Looking for a quieter life." "Well," she smiled, "you found the right neighborhood for that. Most of our customers are pretty mellow." I sat by the window with my coffee, watching people walk dogs and push strollers. It was the kind of normal Saturday morning Ellen and I used to treasure. But instead of sadness, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Anticipation. Monday morning, I dressed in my best suit and drove to Colorado Community Bank. David Morrison was younger than I'd expected, around 45, with the professional warmth that comes from handling people's life savings. "Mr. Hayes, what brings you to Colorado Community Bank?" he asked. "I recently sold my house," I said. "I need a fresh start with an institution that values personal relationships over transaction fees." David nodded with genuine understanding. "We specialize in exactly that kind of service. Tell me about your needs." I explained my situation carefully, a widower who'd sold his family home and needed secure, accessible banking. David asked thoughtful questions, never prying beyond what was necessary for the account setup. "I'll need to wire the funds from my previous bank," I said. "No problem at all," he replied. "We can initiate that transfer today and the funds should clear by Wednesday." David prepared the paperwork with quiet efficiency. Online banking, debit card, checkbook, all standard services. Given the amount, he recommended their premium account package for extra security features. I signed the documents that made me an official client of Colorado Community Bank, customer number 847293, with access to nearly $900,000 that Caitlin and Jeremy would never see. Tuesday and Wednesday passed in the strange rhythm of my new routine. Morning coffee at Brews and Views. Sarah remembered my order and asked about my weekend. Afternoon walks through the neighborhood, discovering a small park with benches where other retirees fed pigeons and read newspapers. Wednesday afternoon, David called with the news I'd been waiting for. "Mr. Hayes, your funds have cleared successfully. Your account is fully active." I hung up and looked around my small apartment at Ellen's photo watching me from the nightstand, at the simple life I was building from the wreckage of my daughter's betrayal. For the first time since Ellen's death, I felt truly in control of my own destiny. Wednesday evening, I sat in my single chair. Not Ellen's reading chair, not the recliner where I'd heard Caitlin's betrayal, just a plain chair in a plain room that belonged entirely to me. I opened my laptop and typed mini surveillance cameras into the search bar. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, knowing what I was about to order would capture the final act of my revenge. Caitlin and Jeremy were returning on Friday, expecting to find their grateful old father ready to be managed. Instead, they would discover that their burden had become their biggest problem. The search results filled my screen with dozens of surveillance options, from obvious security cameras to devices disguised as everyday objects. After 30 minutes of research, I found what I needed: a wireless mini camera hidden inside what looked like a phone charger. The specifications were perfect for my engineering mind. Wi-Fi enabled with smartphone app control, motion-activated recording, 12-hour battery life, crystal clear video quality. Most importantly, it could stream live footage directly to my phone from anywhere with internet access. I ordered it with expedited shipping, paying the extra $40 to guarantee Thursday delivery. The total cost was $149, an amount that would have made me hesitate 2 weeks ago, but barely registered now. With the camera ordered, I turned to the next crucial element: the note that would explain everything to Caitlin and Jeremy when they discovered their keys no longer worked. The first draft was too angry, too raw with the pain of their betrayal. The second was too cold, missing the personal devastation they'd caused. By the third draft, I found the right tone: dignified but devastating, loving but final. I wrote it in my careful engineer's handwriting, the penmanship Ellen had always admired. "Dear Caitlin and Jeremy, if you're reading this, it means my plan worked perfectly. I heard your phone conversation about putting me in a nursing home because I'm becoming a burden. I heard you calculating how much money you'd make selling my house. The house has been sold for $890,000 cash. The money is safely in my new bank account where it will stay. I've moved to a place where I'm appreciated, not tolerated. Don't worry about me. Worry about your own housing situation. Your belongings have been packed and are being stored at Denver Moving and Storage on Fax Avenue. You have 30 days to claim them before storage fees begin. I gave you everything I had for 42 years. You repaid me by planning to warehouse me so you could steal my life's work. I hope the lesson was worth the cost. Love, Dad." Thursday morning, the FedEx truck arrived at my apartment with a small box containing the surveillance equipment. I spent an hour in my kitchen testing the device and learning the smartphone app. The video quality was remarkably clear, the audio sharp enough to catch whispered conversations. Thursday afternoon, I drove to my former house for the last time. I used the garage door opener I'd never given Caitlin and Jeremy, parking inside to avoid questions from neighbors. My hands shook slightly as I approached the front door with my new keys. Inside, the house still smelled like home. Ellen's lavender sachets, the lemon oil I used on the wooden furniture, the faint residue of 25 years of family dinners. But there were new additions that made my chest tight. Caitlin and Jeremy's suitcases by the stairs, their mail scattered on the kitchen counter. Evidence they'd been treating my house as their personal storage facility. While planning my exile, I positioned the camera charger by the front door outlet, angling it perfectly to capture anyone entering. The view through my phone app showed the entire entryway, including the spot where I planned to hang my note. I tested the motion detection, walking in and out of frame until I was satisfied the system would capture every moment of their return. Then I taped the envelope to the inside of the front door at eye level, where they couldn't possibly miss it. Standing in my living room one final time, I touched the mantel where Ellen's photo had sat for 23 years. The new owners would put their own family photos there, and create their own memories in the rooms Ellen and I had filled with love. "It's done, sweetheart," I whispered to Ellen's memory. "Justice served." I locked the house with my new key, tested the camera feed one more time from my car, and drove back to my apartment. The motion detector was armed, the battery fully charged, and my phone ready to alert me the moment Caitlin and Jeremy discovered their keys no longer worked. Back in my apartment, I sat in my chair with my phone in my hand, watching the empty doorway through the camera app. The timestamp showed 6:30 p.m. Thursday evening. Tomorrow, Caitlin and Jeremy would return from their business trip, probably discussing their nursing home plans and already spending my money in their minds. They had no idea their grateful old father had become their worst nightmare. I woke Friday morning with the anticipation of a man about to witness justice after years of injustice. My coffee tasted better than it had in weeks, and even the small apartment felt less confining as I settled into my chair with my phone, the camera feed showing my empty former doorway. 4:30 p.m. They should arrive soon. I'd memorized their travel patterns. Caitlin always insisted on leaving Phoenix by noon to avoid traffic, and Jeremy drove exactly the speed limit. They'd be pulling into my driveway within the hour. I looked at Ellen's photo on my nightstand. "I hope you understand what I'm doing, honey," I said in my head. They left me. No choice. 5:15 p.m. My phone buzzed with motion detection. A black SUV, Jeremy's car, pulled into the driveway. My heart hammered against my ribs as I watched the screen. Caitlin stepped out first, stretching after the long drive. Jeremy emerged from the driver's side, pulling their suitcases from the back. They moved with the casual confidence of people coming home to claim their inheritance. I watched them approach the front door, Caitlin fishing her keys from her purse while Jeremy set the luggage down. She inserted her key into the lock I'd had changed just yesterday. The key didn't turn. Caitlin frowned, examining her key ring. She tried again, jiggling the key with growing frustration. "That's weird," she said. Her voice came through my phone speaker. Jeremy stepped closer, his expression shifting from tired to concerned. "Let me try the back door." I watched him disappear around the side of the house while Caitlin continued struggling with the front lock. When Jeremy returned 3 minutes later, his face had darkened with alarm. "Back door's locked too," he said. "And the garage remote isn't working." His voice carried the edge of panic I'd hoped to hear. Caitlin pulled out her phone with shaking fingers. "I'm calling Dad." She dialed my old landline, the number I'd had disconnected 3 days ago. After several rings, her face crumpled with confusion. "No answer. It's not even going to voicemail."